So recently I decided to take on the task of trying to rank the top 100 players in the NBA. I saw a couple of my friends do it with the NFL, and I figured, why not do it for the NBA? I know this is going to sound ridiculous, but it was even more work than I thought it was going to be. I think it's more difficult for the NBA because there's only 150 starters. So when you get down to guy 100, you're getting down there. Regardless, I've got my list together and I feel pretty decent about it. But before we get into it, I want to talk a little bit about how I made this list and what I was taking into account. So like my methodology. First off, this is a list of the top 100 players in the NBA right now, right this second. Meaning that this is not a prediction for next season, and it's not completely based off of last season. It's how good I think the players are right now. So for the most part, I'm not trying to project the improvement of like young guys, year two guys. I think at that point it would have gotten too complicated. So I tried to keep my projecting to a minimum. That being said, I think there's some guys where you do want to project a little bit to make their ranking fair. Like for instance, Jalen Green. If I were to judge Jalen Green based off just the last season, he'd rank incredibly low. He was super inefficient for half the year because he was like a young shot creator putting up a bunch of shots. We saw Anthony Edwards do the same thing. It's like pretty standard stuff. But as of right now, it's pretty obvious he's going to be significantly better next year. He looked way better at the end of the season. The player he is right now, if he went and played another 82 games, for sure, right, would be higher than where he'd rank if I just based him off last season. So I don't want to do that. So I'll say for a few of the top guys who were like, you know, all rookie first team last year, I projected reasonable improvement. But outside of that, I tried to keep it to a minimum. Another thing is that there's a little bit of an injury tax. If you're constantly hurt, I think that does move your ranking down. Availability really is the best ability. I know that's like a saying you hear all the time, but I honestly think it's true. Now, I didn't want to like move guys down too much. And I'm not saying like, oh, Kawhi Leonard didn't play last year, I'm leaving him off the list. No, that's dumb. But if there's a guy who has, you know, only played 80 or 90 games in the last 3 years total, he's probably a little bit lower within his tier than maybe he would be if he had actually played the full season. But I tried not to go too crazy with it, and I'm not going to have like Kawhi Leonard ranked like 30th, right? I will say though with my injury tax that I'm realizing as I've made it, I wasn't unbelievably consistent with it. So I'm sure you can go and be like, oh, this player was injured this many games the last 3 years and this guy was this many and you gave this one the injury tax and this one not. Maybe a little bit. It was hard to keep it straight through the whole time, but I was more so focused on guys who were like injured consistently, not just like, oh, one fluke accident. Okay, I'm gonna, you know, he wasn't out. He was out for the year with an ACL. I'm putting him down 40 spots. I'm thinking more like this guy is pretty consistently injured and his long-term health is something people are worried about. So he's going to be moved down a little bit lower in his tier. And for the sake of this list, I'm not going to be ranking any of the incoming rookies who have not played an NBA game yet. That's a can of worms I'm not trying to open. So how good the players are right now, we're not projecting, and there is an injury tax. That's kind of the logic that I used to come up with this list. The last thing is that there were a few players who I thought were too hard to judge, too hard to place right now. And I thought putting them on the list and giving them a positioning would just be guessing at this point. So I made an exempt list, and there's only 6 players on it. I didn't go overboard with it, but here's those 6. Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is a top 100 player. If he plays like we know he can, but your guess is as good as mine as to how he's going to look coming back off a back injury. And with the mental stuff with him, it's just too hard to tell. If Ben Simmons comes out and he plays like he did a couple years ago, yeah, he's easily top 100. But the last time we saw him, the mental stuff had gotten to him so much that, I mean, he was really, really pretty awful. And I have no way of accurately judging how that's going to affect him moving forward. So I just felt like I had no real way to rank him. TJ Warren is on this list. He's played 4 games in the last 2 years. I think he would probably sneak into the top 100. And maybe you can just say he's left off the list because he's been hurt so much, but I figure I'd put him here. Russell Westbrook is on this list. And the thing with him is that if I was judging him just off of last year, I don't know if he would make it. I mean, he puts up really, obviously the big numbers, but he doesn't create offense efficiently. He doesn't shoot well. He doesn't defend well. As a point guard, that makes him really hard to get on the floor. And I understand that the Lakers roster was terrible last year, and that if you look even 1 year before with the Wizards, he has his problems, but he was obviously a top 100 player then. But I think the situation with the Lakers maybe messed him up so bad that I think I'm willing to at least put him on here and wait and see if things get better. But right now, off of last year, I'm leaning that Westbrook's pretty bad. But I think it was such an outlier, terrible year. It was such a, fall off a cliff for him that I'm willing to wait until next year to see. Got Jonathan Isaac on here. Same reason for TJ Warren. I have no problem putting an injured player on the list, but how long has it been since Jonathan Isaac played a game? What is he going to look like? I don't know. So I'm not going to rank him, but he would be top 100 if we were ranking him off the last time we saw him. Victor Oladipo's on here. He's another borderline guy, but he's played so few games. I want to see him in a bigger sample size before I say really where he's at, because we know he's got that, 2018 peak, but he's just been so on and off the court. It's tough to tell. And then Miles Bridges is also on this list because he might be on the real life exempt list. All right, let's actually get into the top 100 list now. I'm going to go by groups of 10 because if I went one by one, it'd obviously take forever. But starting at 100, I have Dorian Finney-Smith. I was able to cut the list down to about 125, and I was able to get it to 99 of the top 100. And then picking that last guy out of that group of 25 guys is really tough for the last spot in the list, because once you get down there, everybody's like a role player and they do such different things that it's hard to compare them head to head. So I'm looking at a list of 20 or so people that I could reasonably see having on this list too. But Dorian Finney-Smith is an excellent defender. He's an excellent shooter. He's very much a role player. There's no doubt about that. But he was fantastic in the Western Conference Finals run. It was really important to the Mavs. So I think that he is deserving of being on this list. Colin Sexton's pretty low. He's not on a team for a reason, but he is a really great shot creator. I think that he could be one of the better sixth men in the league, and I'd like to see him get that role. Definitely think that if he can come back off of injury and look good, he can move up this list. But for now, considering how long it's taking him to get a contract, he's coming off of injury and he already has, defensive problems and he doesn't move the ball super well. He does have to be kind of lower on this list. Capella started slipping last year, but he kind of turned it around towards the end of the season. Okongwu is probably going to take some minutes here next year. He at some point is due to slip off of this list. Is that going to be a year or two from now? I'm not sure. Kyle Lowry is one of the harder guys to rank. I gave him benefit of the doubt here. Kyle Lowry was not nearly as bad in the regular season as he was in the playoffs, but he was a disaster in the playoffs. Now, he was hurt. I know that. But the thing is that if you're a 36-year-old point guard and you're having, I think it was hamstring problems, the odds of him turning it around and being healthier for a long period of time, it's not awesome. On top of that, he did show some regression last year in the regular season. And I mean, he was horrible in the postseason. So I think the odds are against a 6 foot, 36-year-old point guard regaining health and getting back to form and really stepping back up. And I think Lowry's shown some regression, but I actually do think he's still a pretty solid player if he can get a little bit healthier. And I don't think that he should be kicked off the top 100 list. Kevin Porter Jr. at 94. I mean, he was playing fantastic at the end of last year. I'm really excited about what the Rockets have. So I think that if he keeps playing like that, he'll absolutely jump up this list. But he's also been pretty inefficient up to this point in his career. So I wanted to put him on the list, but I'm not sure how high I can put him before the injury stuff becomes a problem. Gordon Hayward at 93. He would be way higher if he wasn't so injury prone. I'll say that. He'd be way higher if he wasn't so injury prone. And in fact, I'm a little surprised I put him even this low. But he is still a seriously good player for the Hornets. And I know I'm a biased Hornets fan saying that, but it's true. When he plays, he's good, I swear. Spencer Dinwiddie is also at 90. He's another guy who could possibly move up this list. I don't want to overreact to how he's playing for the Mavs, but he was seriously, significantly better. If he gets another full season of that under his belt, I think he moves up this list. I'm pretty high on him. I was pretty happy with how he was playing. Looking at 90 through 81, I put Lou Dort and Herb Jones on here, and I don't think that's jumping the gun too much. Maybe Herb Jones, you want to see more than his rookie season, but I think we know the type of defender that he's going to be, so I wanted to put him on here. With Lou Dort, also, he's just a ridiculous defender. Now, I know Dort's three-point shooting percentage wasn't amazing this year, but I think that he's being asked to shoot maybe more threes than he really should because of how bad the Thunder's spacing is. Like, he's putting up a lot of shots for a guy in his role, and if he went to, no offense to the Thunder, I mean, they're rebuilding. But if he went to a team that was seriously contending and he had a little bit of smaller of a workload, I think the efficiency goes up and he looks like one of the best role players in the league. Malcolm Brogdon at 86 is definitely an injury tax. I'm a big fan of him. It's a big pickup for the Celtics. I like the move they made because they're going to have him as a sixth man. He's going to be coming off the bench, and he won't have to go out and play 30 minutes a night. But he's played one full season his entire career. He's played 70 games one time his entire career, and he's 30 years old. So I think that he's definitely skill-wise better than 86, but I did ding him a little bit for the injury stuff. Al Horford's on here. I think that I really valued on this list, and Brook Lopez right next to him. I really value 3-and-D centers, guys who are good interior defenders who can also shoot the ball and help with spacing. That's one of the most valuable type of role players in the league. So I had to pay my respect to Horford and Lopez. DeAndre Hunter here at 81, definitely, a pretty premier role player, but so injury prone that you gotta kind of stick him low. Looking at 80 to 71, Klay Thompson here at 80. He's played 32 games in the last 3 years. He did look decent when coming back, a little up, a little down. And I know he can definitely be better when he comes back with a full season and a full off season and isn't working right off of injury. But for now, I think 80 is where I'm going to put him. He's a harder player to rank right now. Miles Turner, he's a great player, but he's played less games than Gordon Hayward in the last 2 years. He's got lower body injuries. They scare me a lot. But, obviously he's an incredible interior defender and he can shoot the ball a little bit. And I've got a tier almost accidentally of 4 centers in a row here. Valanciunas, who I like a lot. I'm a really big fan of Valanciunas. He's fun to watch and he's amazing in 2K. Not saying that helped his ranking, but it's true. Vucevic, who I think can be better than he was last year, but he was not awesome last year. He's 1 year removed from being an all-star, though. I know that feels like it's been longer, but he's 1 year removed from being an all-star. The interior defense, though, for him is so valuable for a center, and he's just not super strong at it. I think he has a bounce-back season, but for now, I'm going to be a little bit lower on him. And then I have Yaakov Purdle, who I'm a super big fan of. We talk about interior defense. He's an incredible defender. Not, a super plus offensive player, but not terrible either. He's not creating his own shot, but the role that he plays and the value he provides with his defense, I think puts him up here. I'll say, though, that there's not an order you could have these 4 guys in that I'd be mad at. D'Angelo Russell on here. He maybe gets a little bit too much hate. I understand it, but I think he's still a pretty valuable guard for some of the stuff that he does. And then Julius Randle at 73, he almost made the exempt list, but I didn't want to cheat too much and just throw a bunch of guys on there who are hard to rank. He's 1 year removed from being all NBA. He was terrible last year. I think that he is not a number 1 option, and I think being a number 1 option causes him to overextend himself in a system where maybe he doesn't have to do as much. I think he can still do a lot of good things for a team, so I don't want to just kick him off the list entirely, but if he looks like he did last year again, he's in danger of moving down. And then you got Jeremy Grant, John Collins, both good players. 70 through 61, Christian Wood at 70. He wasn't a super strong defender last year, but I feel like he's been better in the past. If he continues to be better defensively and, works well with Luka, I think he could move up this list. Terry Rozier, Harrison Barnes, OG Anunoby, Lonzo Ball. Lonzo's a little bit of a hard one to rank with the knee stuff now, too. Makes me nervous, but I think his playmaking, his passing ability is a big deal. He's a good defender. He's a good 3-point shooter. He does a lot of things well. He's a type of role player. He's maybe even calling him a role player is kind of unfair, but he's a great player. I think every team would like to have him. So I'm pretty high on him. Kristaps is an interesting one. This is maybe even a little high for him. There's a few guys under him that I know I would probably take if I were a team, but he was playing pretty good with the Wizards. I know he's always injured, but maybe playing with Luka and having the expectations of being a championship number 2 has made people a little bit too low on him. He was legitimately not bad for Washington at all. So I think that 65 is around the right spot for him. Simon's at 63. I think he definitely has some potential to move up this list, but we got to see it first before he really does. And we got Marcus Smart here at 61. He's a really tough player to rank. He won Defensive Player of the Year, so you can't put him that low. But I also don't know if I would have given him DPOY. Regardless, he is one of the best defenders in the league. He's really, really important to that Celtics team. So maybe even 61 is a hair low for him, but this is where I ended up with him. 60 through 51, Franz Wagner, one of the players that I'm projecting to take a little bit of a leap. He was really good last year. He didn't necessarily always get the talk that he should have, granted because he was on Orlando, and I don't know if I can blame people for that. But seriously, really strong player. Orlando's got a really bright future. Jalen Brunson at 59 and RJ Barrett at 58, two Knicks guys. Brunson had a really great playoff run. If he continues to, if he can handle a little bit higher of a scoring volume, if he proves he can do that, he can move up this list. And RJ Barrett, what kills me about him is that the efficiency really didn't get a whole lot better this year from him. He wasn't great from mid-range. His three-point shooting took a little bit of a dip. And I know he can be better than that. I think there's a world where he continues to develop and you see him as more of like a go out and get you a bucket type guy. But until he actually takes that leap, especially as a guy who we've already seen 3 years from, I'm not going to put him too much higher. Porter at 57 is maybe not enough of an injury tax for him, but I'll say that his off-ball stuff is so valuable. I think it makes him fit on any team really, really easily. And when he did last play, he was great. I mean, other than like the 8 games he played this year, I think that if he can get back to being healthy, he can move up that list. Robert Williams at 56, when he wins a DPOY, he'll move up this list. He's legitimately one of the best defenders in the world right now. I'm super, super high on him. And then after that, I've kind of got a trio right here of Maxey, Jordan Poole, and Tyler Hero, who I all feel like are kind of relatively similar players, all things considered. I went with Maxey, then Poole, then Hero, I guess in reverse order. But I could see, I think that all these guys are close enough. I can see it anyway. I'm interested to see this year if any of these guys really separate themselves from the rest of them, because right now I don't have a super strong feeling for it. Jaron Jackson Jr., awesome on defense. Super, super, super important to Memphis winning against the Timberwolves. But he's super injury prone, and I want to see him develop a little bit more on offense. Mikal Bridges at 51 might seem high. I really, really don't think that it is. He's a fantastic defensive player. He's an excellent role player. He fits into offenses easily. I'm a huge fan of him, so I think having him this high is absolutely justified. Okay, getting into 50 through 41. This is where it starts to get a little bit tough. It's a little bit more than just placing a player in the correct range. But at number 50, I have Draymond. He's a really tough player to judge. One of the best defenders in the NBA, no doubt. But also, would he be as effective on another team? There's some offensive limitations you got to work around. I don't know if Sabonis, who I have ranked above him, would necessarily be better for the Warriors. In fact, I don't think he would. But I also think that Draymond maybe doesn't work on every team or is a little bit harder to fit on some other teams. So I feel like 50 is about right for him. Jalen Green at 46 might seem a little high. I don't think that it is. He was ridiculous at the end of last year, and I have no reason to think that he's not going to play like that again next year. I would honestly probably have him higher if it wasn't for the fact that he's played like 80 NBA games and half of them haven't been great. So I am dinging him a little bit for just how rough the start of the season was for him. But I genuinely think that if I was saying like how good I think players are going to be next year, I would have Jalen Green ranked above 46. I'm that high on him. Wiggins at 45. He was pretty great last year. I don't know if he can handle a crazy high workload, but in the role that he's playing for the Warriors, he's pretty efficient. He's a great defender, does a lot of good stuff. Dejante Murray, I'm interested to see how he works with Trey Young, but the off-ball stuff needs to work on himself as a shooter, but definitely a lot of good stuff. And then Fred VanVleet, Jrue Holiday, Jamal Murray. 40 through 31. This is where a lot of the second and third year guys got stuck for me, where there's kind of a tier where I don't want to rank them above these guys, but I do still want to rank them highly because I think they're all, getting ready to take that jump, and we're going to see where they end up landing. Halliburton, Barnes, Evan Mobley. I've got Fox in there. LaMelo, Cade, all kind of in that same area. I feel pretty confident. Again, I said I was trying to limit projecting to kind of the top of the top guys. This is that. But I'm still even not putting these guys as high as maybe I predict that they'll land. For instance, with LaMelo, if he does become more aggressive and his half court improves, he'll be way higher than 36. But I don't want to predict that to happen too much because, again, we're doing the rankings off of right now. But this is where I kind of slotted in a lot of those guys. I'm super excited about Cade and Evan Mobley and Barnes and Halliburton. Darren Fox is a little bit tougher of a player to rank. he is a really good offensive player, but he has his limitations, and we haven't seen him in the playoffs. So he does get dinged pretty seriously for that. Rudy Gobert at 34 might be a little controversial, but I'm willing to stand by this one. He is a world-class defender, one of the best interior defenders of all time, and they basically had to stop giving him Defensive Player of the Years because they did it too many times and got bored of it. But once you get into the playoffs, because he is not a threat offensively, it is too easy to run small ball with a 5 that can shoot, taking him out of the paint. And since he can't challenge that on offense, his defense becomes a lot less valuable. We've seen it happen every single time. And maybe with Karl Anthony Towns and with the Timberwolves, they work something out. But right now, I have to give him the opposite of the benefit of the doubt because I've seen it too many times. Middleton at 33. DeMar at 32. DeMar DeRozan's so hard to rank, man. He was ridiculous last year in the regular season for a pretty good stretch there. But overall, the Bulls ended up being a disappointment. Right now, DeMar DeRozan, again, opposite of the benefit of the doubt with the playoffs. He's really not been amazing. You know, I really like DeMar, and I think that maybe on a healthy Bulls team, he could really finally have that playoff push. But there's just a lot of great players in the NBA. I know that there was a point in time I remember we were running our like consensus rankings. He was like top 10, considered top 10 in the NBA at the moment because of how good he was. But I don't want to overreact to that stretch of games, so I think 32 is fair. And then at 31, I have Anthony Edwards. I think next year he's going to average like 25. He's a super big challenge for defenses. He'll definitely, I don't want to say definitely, but he has a very good shot to end up higher than this. But again, I'm trying to limit projecting the most that I can. So that's where he landed. 30 through 21, I've got Brandon Ingram at 30. He's a little bit inefficient, but he was playing really well in the playoffs. And I think once Zion comes back, he's going to really start turning it up. James Harden at 29 is tough. I want to give him benefit of the doubt, but he obviously didn't have the same zip that he did in the playoffs. Now, is that going to be something that gets better because his hamstring gets better, or is it going to be just the way that he plays now? It's hard to tell, right? So I decided 29 is about where I was going to put him, but I'll admit that judging where he should go on this list without seeing exactly how healthy, how close to 100% he's going to be next year is pretty hard to do. Shea at 28, I'm very high on him, and he also wasn't super efficient last year, but I think he kind of had an outlier shooting year, and when that's better this next season, he's legitimately got a good chance to, at some point in his career, be top 10, top 15 player. I'm very high on him. Bam at 27, maybe not the offensive option that the Heat want him to be, but he's still one of the premier defensive players in the league. Levine, Garland, Bradley Beal, Donovan Mitchell. Those guys I think you could put in a couple of different orders. I'm a little bit higher on Garland. I know Beal's coming off a pretty big injury, and he was not playing all that well last year, but I'm giving him benefit of the doubt. I know Donovan Mitchell had a bad playoff series, but that is an outlier for him as well. We've seen him ball out in the playoffs, and we know everything going on with the Jazz. I felt like dinging him too much for that would be not fair. Siakam at 22. I don't think that he's quite as reliable of an offensive option as maybe a few of the guys ahead of him, but he is still a very solid offensive player. I mean, he's a 4 who is a great defender. He can shoot the ball. He is good offensively. So I put him here, and I think that's about right. Like I said, he was all NBA last year, and I think a lot of people were upset, like, oh, it should have been Jimmy Butler. But even if he was, maybe should have been one spot out of being all NBA, he is that type of player. He is very good. There's a reason why Toronto wins so many games, so you got to give him his respect. And then Jalen Brown at 21. Jalen Brown is like, if you were to create a second option for a contending team in a lab, it would be Jalen Brown. Great defender who can efficiently create his own shot. His ball movement isn't amazing. His dribbling gets some hate, and rightfully so, and that's why he's here. But he's still really great, still a big deal to the Celtics. Still a reason why they made the finals. 20 through 11. Zion Williamson at 20 might seem a little high, but the way I look at it, he is a dominant offensive player when he plays. And the number of guys you can say that about is very, very low in the NBA. Now, he's only played 80 games, but I think putting him any lower than this is not fairly assessing him based off like how good he actually is. And I think this is dinging him a little bit. He legitimately, if he plays a full season, legitimately could be one of the 10 best players in the NBA. So him at 20, I think, is more than an injury tax, honestly. He's crazy, crazy efficient. And yeah, he's not a great shooter and the defense needs some work. But when he's healthy, when he's legitimately playing, he's one of the best players in the league. Karl Anthony Towns at 19, I think, is fair. I'm interested to see what he does with Gobert now. But I think that his big weakness is interior defense. And now that he doesn't need to do that as much with Gobert on the roster, he's going to look a lot better. Chris Paul at 18. We kind of know the player he is now, and he's had some up and down games in the playoffs for a little while. And he also seems to always get banged up at the wrong time. But his facilitating obviously is a big deal for the Suns. He's got a ridiculous track record of making teams significantly better. And I think that's still the case. So I think he's still one of the better players in the NBA. Kyrie at 17 is maybe a little bit lower than other people have him on their list, but there's a real lack of games played for him. And on top of that, I feel like people will tell me, oh, I have him above Damian Lillard or I have him above Trey Young, which obviously I don't. And I can't agree with that. I see Kyrie Irving is a great player, ridiculously efficient scorer, can go out and get his own shot with the best of them. But I don't know if he's a number one option in the same way that like a Trey Young is. So Kyrie's great. But if I were to swap Kyrie and Trey Young right now, would the Hawks get better? I don't think so. So I have him at 17. Ja Morant at 16. I don't really buy into the Memphis is better without him stuff quite yet. I feel like I'd have to see a bigger sample size than that. People always use that, oh, well, when this player left, the team won this many games, and this was a record when the player was back. A lot of times that stuff can just be because of small sample size or other factors. I thought he was really fantastic this year. He's also a little injury prone, but not as much as Kyrie, so I stuck him at 16. Devin Booker at 15. I think I've been too low on him, and I know the playoffs didn't end the way that they were supposed to, and maybe it'd be like, oh, Devin Booker needs to be way lower, but he was going off in the regular season, and I'm going to give him credit for that. Paul George at 14. Trey Young at 13. I'm ridiculously high on Trey Young. He's, a guy who any given year has a chance to win the scoring title and the assist title. I know that's not everything, but I think it does speak to how great of a player he is. He's taken the Hawks team to the Western Conference Finals when they did not have the roster that would make you think that they should go get there. He's one of the best offensive options in the league, straight up. He can get it to anybody. He can score himself. He's got the deep threes. When the ball's in his hands, so many things are a threat. And I know the defense is terrible, but if his defense was good, he would be a top 10 player. So I think that is dinging him. I'm interested to see what he does with Murray this year. So I'm very, very high on Trey. Anthony Davis at 12, hard player to judge right now. Super, super injury prone. Not just that he's missed a lot of games and it's like, oh, you got to put him a little bit lower. He's missed a lot of games and it's up in the air whether he's going to ever get back to the point where he's like playing full seasons. He's obviously great when he does play, but last year he had some problems with the shooting. You'd like to see him really be the 5 and go be physical. And now that he's hurt often, it leads him to not be as physical. We saw what he did in 2020. I don't need to over explain it, but it's been a little bit for him. I want to see him kind of get back this year and look like his old self a little bit. And then Jimmy Butler at 11, I wanted to put him in the top 10, but I just had him outside of it. Obviously a really great player. Obviously has led a lot of really good teams. So that brings us to my top 10, which is maybe a little bit controversial, but I think it's kind of impossible to make one that isn't. I've got Dame at 10, Tatum at 9, Kawhi missed a full season, he's at 8. I feel like that's all pretty understandable. What I really want to talk about is the top 7. These are the top tier of guys, and you could throw Kawhi in there too, to me. And maybe Tatum's getting in that category too now. But the gap between these guys is so ridiculously close. Any given year, whichever one of them has the best supporting cast, I think, is the odds-on favorite to win the finals. But this is the order that I went ahead and put them in. Giannis is pretty easily one for me. He's the only player in the NBA where you can both build a championship-level offense and defense around him. Outside of maybe like a Kawhi Leonard, there's very few guys you can really do that with. Jokic at 2, he has back-to-back MVPs, some pretty ridiculous carry jobs. And I know people have some concerns about him with the playoffs, but the Nuggets are yet to actually underperform their expectations in the playoffs, so I'm not sure I can blame him. Luka just went to the Western Conference Finals with a roster that was not that crazy strong. I think with the ball in his hands, he's arguably the best playmaker in the league, and I think that's the most important thing for these star players. He's super consistent in the playoffs. I know he's only got a few series wins under his belt, but I'm not really looking at how many series wins has this guy had in the last 5 years? That's not the way that I'm trying to approach it. So I'm pretty high on Luka. Curry at 4. I could definitely see him higher, and I think these 3 guys in any order as your 2 through 4 are pretty good. He's just coming off a Finals MVP. But I also think that he had a pretty great supporting cast, and I don't feel like if you put Curry in Jokic's place or Luka's place that he would, take those teams and win the Finals and win the Finals MVP. So you do got to take that with a grain of salt. But he's one of the best playmakers in the league. His gravity absolutely is as valuable as people say it is. The off-ball stuff, the three-point shooting, the whole thing with Steph Curry I'm buying into. So I've got him at 4. Joel Embiid at 5. He not only can be like your number one offensive option, but he's also a great interior defender. And he also allows you, whenever he's on the court, to be playing him as a stretch 5 and makes it easier to go 5 out. I think that, we talked earlier about how the best role players are, like the 3-and-D centers, because interior defending and 3-point shooting is worth so much. I think Embiid provides those things, and he's also, the scoring champion this year, right? He's a total matchup nightmare, and his number one problem right now, to me, is that he's just unlucky with injuries and stuff like that, so I'm pretty high on him. Plus, he's put together back-to-back MVP campaigns. It feels wrong to have him anything lower than 5. LeBron at 6, he was right there for the scoring title too. He's still looking like himself for the most part. I'd say the big thing about LeBron aging, because he's still a great scorer, he's still a great facilitator, he's still a great playmaker, is that at this age, I don't know if LeBron can put together 80 games of a carry job that maybe an Embiid can, or a Luka can, or a Jokic can, right? And that's not to say that he isn't great or he still couldn't lead a team to a championship. I think he could, but there's definitely some consistency limitations with somebody who's turning 38 next year, as far as being able to go night in and night out. Now, he's still this high because obviously it's if he's right for the playoffs, I think he'd be good to go, and he's still one of the best offensive options in the league. I do think it's kind of splitting hairs, but when he's up against Jokic and Luka and all them, you kind of have to. And then I have Durant at 7. I think he's arguably still the best scorer in the league, but he's played 80 games or 90 games in the last 3 seasons, regular season-wise combined. He's getting up there in age, and I understand that his play style fits very well to the playoffs, and having a guy who can go out and get himself a bucket is the most valuable thing, and he's just unguardable, and it's a matchup nightmare. But being shut down by the Celtics makes it kind of tough for me to put him above a guy who has had, back-to-back MVP years, right? Or Steph Curry, who just made a really great run in the playoffs and provides offensive value in different ways. So I'm saying a little bit of an injury tax for KD here, but I also think that he's not the facilitator that LeBron is, or he's not the defender that Embiid is. And I think I could see KD. I had KD at 5 at one point, and then I kind of leaned away from that. But so I'd say that 5 through 7 for me are a little tier. 2 through 4 are a little tier, and Giannis you got to have at 1. Now I understand that KD and LeBron are 2 of the more proven guys, and they're 6 and 7 of that top 7. But I'm not really going by what they've accomplished in the past more so than how good I think they are now. So I'm trying not to take that too much into account. But yeah, that's my list. I'm interested to hear what you guys agree and disagree with. I'm pretty sure most of my comments are going to be from having LeBron as 6 and Kevin Durant as 7 and saying that's disrespectful, which I get. But I'll say this, if you're going to tell me that I'm an idiot for having him that low, I'm okay with that. I'm down for that. But you got to tell me who you have as your top 7. Because you got to put, it's easy to say, Kevin Durant and LeBron need to be higher, but that means somebody else is lower. So I'm down for the criticism, but I want to hear y'all's top 7. Outside of that, there's so many players to rank. I'm sure I got a few wrong, especially after about 50 or so. The placement maybe gets a little bit spotty, but I stand by it for the most part. Unless there's something really egregious I missed, or I spent a long time thinking about whether or not I was forgetting a certain player, and I don't think that I did, but I might have just jinxed myself saying that. Regardless, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it if you made it all the way through the video. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff you're supposed to do on YouTube videos. I'll catch you guys next time.